Tweets are out. Fucking Elon Musk and his Twitter redesign. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the final episode of 2022 of Bloody Good Horror. My name's Eric, and I will be your host for this evening. Actually, I won't be your host for this evening. John Schnars will be your host for this evening as we count down the top 10 horror movies of 2022. You know what? I want to bring back worst horror movie of 2022 also because I'm sick of the toxically positive people, positively toxic, whatever they call those people that tell me I can't say when a movie's bad. So fuck you.
Toxic
yeah,
positivity
that's silly.
nonsense.
Thank you.
Caitlin, you prepared a top 3 worst, right? Like you've not given up on the
I love
worst.
it.
Yeah.
Let's run.
We can do it live,
motherfuckers
Eric.
down.
We can do it live.
Joining me.
I'm nothing if not a hater.
Joining me first up, that voice you hear. That's right. She's back. We needed updates on what was happening in Richmond, Virginia. So please welcome Caitlin to the show.
Thanks for having me.
You were on for what, half the year? So we figured, come on in for the year ender.
Caitlin, you were on the last year ender too. I noticed.
Yeah. I was, yeah.
Next,
2 in a row.
2 in a row.
Joining us next from Indiana, please welcome Jerry Garcia. I mean Casey.
Hello.
Weed Jesus Casey to the show.
I will get by.
And last up tonight, I would say Manhattan, New York City, but he's actually coming to us tonight from the Chalet, as it's known around my house. Please welcome Mr. John Schnars to the show.
Hello, Eric.
I also noticed, John, and this live stream, as we do every year, is going out to the masses, not just the BGH patrons who get a live stream every week. But these people might be noticing, if they could tell from your candlelight situation you have going on. You're rocking the flat brim hat tonight, which is a bold look for
It's a lantern light. This is a running hat from Other Half Brewing, and
a running hat.
I feel like the kids call that the Riz. John's laying on the Riz, the charisma Riz.
Oh,
You got like the soft lighting and the flat brim hat.
wow.
Sure.
I was gonna say
That's what I called it too.
This is the time when the the non-Patreon users tune in and find out that we've been joking about Schnars being rich for years and he's living in New Power.
Yeah.
I just feel like I bring it up because I just feel like you're either a flat brim person or you're not. I'm decidedly not. The jury's still out on you, Schnars. Give me the show and I'll let you know.
This is a running hat, so it's a very flexible brim. Yeah,
Weird.
and I've tried to shape it a little, and it doesn't stay, and so it sort of just goes flat.
That's bizarre.
Yeah, well, it's washable. Like you're supposed to be able to machine wash this thing any which way.
So wait,
I curve mine, thank you.
So could you bend it if you wanted to?
I've tried it, but it doesn't
But
stay.
it
It just
snaps
goes back. It doesn't even snap back. It just like eventually goes back. Like it's a little bent now.
That's the weirdest hat
and
I've
then-
ever seen. I don't know how I feel about
Will
it.
you feel better if I send him a rubber band to put on it, Eric?
That's almost like
Little
those.
baseball.
It's almost like those old school bicycle hats that we all wore in the 90s.
That is it. Yes, it's
Can you flip it up?
it's like a bicyclist
Can you
hat.
flip it
yeah.
up?
You could probably flip it up. Yeah. you
Yep,
can.
that's how it's gonna be for the rest of the show.
It
You look
doesn't
real
say.
ska, buddy.
Welcome in. If you are new to Bloody Good Horror, welcome. We are going to be counting down the top 10 horror movies of 2022. So let's take a quick break and do just that.
This is it, Jennifer. Your big break in TV. Welcome to prime time. Main feature.
It's your time to shine, Schnars.
Pass the mic, brother.
Did you have a word? I didn't remember where we landed on that.
No, I told you no word. Like literally.
Well, I know, but you say
2.5
that,
minutes
but you
ago.
say that every week, and then you look it up. So I wasn't sure
No.
where we'd landed.
That
on
was me saying, look, I've done too much other nonsense today, and
love
I
it.
couldn't
All right,
come up with a word.
Schnarzy, take the wheel. Let's do this.
Okay.
What are we explain to people what we're doing?
Crew and people. Here we are. We're counting down the best films of 2022 as voted on by the BGH. I'll call it the staff. So the staff is basically anyone who's been on this here podcast in the year 2022, and then some of the fine folks that make bloodygoodhorror.com a web establishment that you could visit, bookmark, click on a link.
Do people bookmark still? I do. I use a toolbar, a bookmark toolbar.
Sure. Why? Yeah.
I've never sounded older, either of you.
Come on.
God, here comes the RSS feed
for the
again.
pros.
I actually did give up. I did give up my RSS feed a few years ago.
I mean, we don't need to revisit that. Let's leave it alone for right now. So basically what happens is we put out a call. People vote. We aggregate in a very, very, very complicated formula. It's not that complicated, but it is a spreadsheet. We pull together all the votes. And so what we're going to talk through here is the top 10 films as decided on by the BGH crew, let's say.
Brain trust.
So I got a little bit of a script. We're going to walk through it. I'm going to talk about a couple of honorable mentions. Then we're going to move through the top 10. For each film, I'm going to give you the number of voters who had that film on their list. I'm going to give you the person who had it the highest on their list among all the voters, which will give us a chance to make fun of some people potentially.
I'm always very aware of that when I'm making my list because there's stuff I want to talk about.
Yeah, no.
I know.
Look,
I know how to game the system, Schnars.
One of us will be the presenter. I'm basically gonna call on someone to present the film. So you basically, once we've announced what the film is, someone will then sort of state the case for why the film. In almost every case, the person who is the presenter was had it the highest on their list of the four of us. There's a couple where I had to I cheated. I have a couple of fun tidbits and categories that we can get to at the very, very end. But we'll do that then. I should say, in past years, I'm just going to say this up front, we have done a patron vote. I didn't have my shit together. Look, I'm going to own it right now. I'm going to own it right up front. I did not have my shit together. It's been a very hard winter for the Schnars family, the Schnars household. And so no patron vote. I'm open to patrons telling us what their top 10 films are. I would love to know. It's actually something I missed because I was looking through last year's script and I was like, fuck, that was fun. There were some good ones. I just couldn't. It was too much. So I apologize.
I would say, not that it makes up for your negligence, John, but I would say if you're listening,
totally. Nothing will.
If you're listening to this, whether live or after the fact, and we missed something that's on your list, send us a message.
We may ignore it.
Possibly.
We may talk about it on the show. Never know.
John himself is going to reply to every email.
Yeah, there you go. Please send it to eric@bloodygoodheart.com. All right. So without further ado, we're going to get into it. This year we had 13 total ballots cast. That was higher than we've had in the last couple of years. So the last time we had more than that was 2019.
Interesting.
So very nice.
We did kind of, especially over at the site, kind of staff up.
Yeah.
And
we grew the crew.
And we had a lot of guests on the show this year, so that makes sense.
You got it every once in a while, it's a rebirth. It's a constant evolution here.
It's
like the film Men. It's like one man falls down and then another man crawls out of his anus.
Right. And then just like a
You're
Russian,
always saying that.
Like a Russian nesting doll of men.
If I had to compare Bloody Good Hard to anything, of those 13 people that voted, 32 movies voted on. 32 movies were selected on any ballot. That's actually lower on average than we've had in a while. So again, since 2019, that's the lowest average number of films across a voting block like that. However, we had 7 different movies receive a number 1 vote, which was on the higher end.
Nice.
That's interesting.
It's an interesting year. I would say, as just some context setting, top heavy. We'll talk about it. There was a handful. There was about a half a dozen movies that received a lot of votes. And then there was a very long list of films that received, a solid
I will say
number.
it felt like, Amanda will get to this, but it felt like a year that took a long ass time to get going. Like 6 months in, I feel like I had nothing decent on my top 10.
I don't know. I had the same movie in my number one spot up until the last, say, 3 or 4 months of this year.
Well, that's kind of what I'm saying.
Yeah, mine stayed number one the whole time, almost.
Oh, now I gotta look. What was Caitlin's number?
Yeah,
in
but
any event,
I'm talking more like just overall.
No, the latter half
stuff.
was definitely the stacked half of the year.
Yeah.
Well, there was a lot of indie stuff too that hit a little later. Like obviously the stuff in the theaters is one thing.
What's interesting now too, and it's worth saying, like, because people always be like, "You didn't watch this movie." Compared to when we started this show, the entire, which was, by the way, this is our 15th year officially. The fucking world is different. Like the iPhone was barely a thing when we started the show. Like the amount of indie horror dropping in any given week on, say, like Shudder, it's impossible for us to get to everything that might hit somebody's top 10 list. Like we do what we can to try to, and it's, in fact, we do it at the expense of watching like goofy, shitty movies, which I kind of miss. Like we try to do all the like prestige kind of indie stuff coming out, but it's hard. There's so much of it now.
I think some of that does lend itself to this fact that there was like there was slightly more consensus this year than we've had in the past,
right,
because we all saw a lot of the same movies. I think we also, again, context setting, I think there was a little bit of like a level setting. I mean, Eric, you did your list live on the air as we were going along. There's a little bit of level setting among the group as we were going. But
yeah, do you think I'm influencing people, John?
I just think we're talking about it more, and so it's like we're all kind of having. Although, Eric, I do think you changed your list pretty late in the game, from what I can tell.
The last week I changed it, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get into it. Well,
I made a stand on a couple of things. We can get into that too. So.
Caitlin, there's one movie you didn't put on your list.
I know.
I know.
Well, there's one that I made you watch, and there's also one that I think you'll be sad is not on my list, but maybe you won't care.
I think I know. Well, I think I know what both of those movies are. We're going to get into it. Let's start with the honorable mentions. At number 12, I'm giving 2 honorable mentions. It's always tough with the honorable mentions. I draw a line where I feel like the votes drop off. There was like a very long tail, and so I just sort of had to like pick a spot, and I picked it at number 12. The movie is Deadstream. It was actually on 6 people's lists, almost half of the lists.
Nice.
But the highest position it was on any list was Rachel, had it at number 6. Eric, I'm going to ask you to kick us off on Deadstream.
Sure. Deadstream is, I feel like, tough on a list like this, specifically because so much horror now is like prestige. It's like serious, emotional, impactful. Like that movie is just dumb fun. Like, but the sort of genius is how it manages to be so over the top and silly, and yet like so entertaining. It's easily the best found footage thing I saw all year. Not that we saw a lot of it, but
I mean, when that dude jumps out the window,
it's a romp, and I saw it twice, and it's just as fun the second time, honestly.
I'll remember more scenes from Deadstream
than
I will for other movies that are higher on my list. I just didn't end up loving it, but there were some moments.
It's one of the more fun things that it's some of the most fun I had with a movie all year, I feel like.
A fun aside on Deadstream, Melanie Stone, that plays Chrissy, who's one of the main actresses in that movie. She showed up in the Christmas Dragon on the MST3K season finale for this year. I thought it was funny.
Oh, are they still doing that? The MST, the one on Netflix?
Yeah, that's all online now. But they were they just had that was their season finale. So she was a wizard.
Wild.
She's in the movie, or she was one of the commentary? Oh, boy.
No, she's in the movie. It's another one of hers. There's actually, I think, a couple people that were involved in Deadstream that were in that worked on that Christmas Dragon too, from what I can tell.
Interesting.
Yeah, sounds right. Christmas Dragon. Caitlin, did you see Deadstream?
You know, I didn't. That's like the one. I missed that, and I missed Bones and All. Those are like the 2 that didn't make it for me this year. I know. But I've heard great things about both of them. I've heard more about Deadstream than I have about Bones and All. So.
Yeah. That's fair.
I mean, it depends who you're talking to, I guess.
In horror circles, I feel like Deadstream is going to be popular. So.
I think it'd be up your alley.
Isn't there another movie called Deadstream though? Apparently there are two. I don't know. I'll watch the right one.
This is Deadstream, open parenthesis 2022 close parenthesis.
Perfect.
Yeah, you got it. Honorable mention number 2. This is our number 11 film. The movie is Prey.
Oh,
Prey made it
surprising.
on 5 lists. Joe Ferry had it at number 2.
Good.
Joe Ferry.
People
Look,
love that movie.
I'm just-
yeah, people.
I'm
love
just
it.
gonna say it up front. Joe Ferry was trying to skew the curve on a lot of movies.
I know
and
he would.
we didn't. There were honestly, and I'll tell him this to his face. We didn't have enough crazy voting going on because he was pulling for some things. And in any event, Casey,
I
you
would
had this
say
at number 7.
I'm
You and
surprised.
Eric actually both.
I'm
Yeah.
surprised.
I liked Predator a lot because this one came out. It was kind of a surprise to me. We hadn't heard a whole lot about it until just before it came out with Prey. And then once we got in there and the way they melded, it felt like going back to the classic action of a Predator movie and melding it with that time period was just pretty ace. And I loved kind of the way they played with that time period with the Predator and stuff too. Plus we got a new Predator. So they did some world building. We got to see shit blow up. It was pretty awesome all around.
I also love this movie. This was the movie, and I think this is happening more and more with a lot. So, I mean, we're not going to talk about this movie, so I'll mention it now. Smile was
Yeah.
a movie that was made for streaming and then goes to theaters, makes a shitload of money. This was the opposite. They I think originally were planning for this to be in theaters, and for whatever reason they were just like, fuck it, let's throw it on Hulu.
And then it like did crazy on Hulu.
It was
Yeah.
like the biggest. It was like the biggest success Hulu had all year. Which, like, great. Hulu needs things too, but I
Hulu,
like, part of me
Hulu
is
got to
also
eat.
like,
Is that what you're saying, John?
I don't know. Like, I mean, it does. Like, this is the whole streaming. But I would have loved to see this in theater. This among other things we've seen in theater, this would have, blown them away. Anything else on Prey?
It's good.
It was a good one. I like the whole Trachtenberg, right? That's who directed.
Yeah, I think so.
Sure.
I like the whole like setting it in a specific time, just so the way he did Cloverfield, kind of like pulling a little, like, zooming in on one chunk of something that's happening and putting it in a very specific time and place. So I'm excited about what he'll do next, and I liked Prey. And I'm not a Predator fan, so.
It's like you don't need any more super weapon Predator. Like, I got a huge gun, I'm fighting the Predator. Like, this was a completely different take, which was pretty cool.
And the performances were good. Amber
I feel
Midthunder,
like
solid.
I might be making this up. Or was it?
Just say, come on, what are we doing here?
I feel like I saw a thing today that was like they're gonna make another one in feudal Japan.
I've heard people request that.
Sign me
Yeah,
up,
I thought I saw
bro.
that tweet today. You heard it here first. News I may be made up.
Yeah, there's a lot of tweets, Eric.
There's so
now more
John,
than ever.
there's so many. So many tweets.
Full quote from the show. There's a lot
Yeah.
of tweets, Eric.
All right. Well, look, let's move into our top 10. And number 10, this is a fun one because I'm calling this. I couldn't come up with a better name for it, but this is the honorary Zombie Girls Flex Award, meaning they were flexing on us.
They
real hard
strong
on
armed
this
us
one.
onto our list. I swear to God, if you say hatching, I'm unplugging my
They-
computer right
They
now.
did this. No, they did this with a movie last year too.
Oh,
But
easy, Eric.
yeah.
I hated that movie.
The movie is Hellbender.
All
yeah.
right.
It was
okay.
it was only on 4 lists, and the highest position was Ariel and Rachel.
If I had to
had it
accept
at number
either
4.
Hellbender or hatching, I'll take Hellbender.
I love them both, I gotta say.
I
I
enjoyed Hellbender.
well, Caitlin, you did. I was gonna give this to you because as the lady here, I was gonna be like, oh, you gotta talk about the lady movie, but you didn't have it on your list. I didn't have it on my
Well,
list. I was gonna
listen,
take this one.
It got a
Go ahead.
festival release in 2021, and it got a wide release on Shudder in 2022. So I was giving more preference to like actual 2022 releases. I know it, like
That's
the line
not
is
how
blurry.
our that's not how
It's
our
not the
rules
rules.
work.
I
Caitlin.
know,
we have,
but
it's
I'm-
not blurry. We have clear rules. Mass wide release.
Did
in
you
that
have it
year.
on your list last year?
No, because I didn't see it last year. So, but
Here-
look,
because
I liked
here's why.
Hellbender, but it would have made like number probably 12 or 13 for me.
Yeah. So I think it's a super interesting movie. I didn't know what's the name of the family.
Adams.
The Addams family.
It's a
I had
creepy
never. What's the creepy family? I had never heard of these folks until I saw this movie. Love what they're doing. I'm here for it. I'm supportive of it. Like, they're interesting people. They make interesting parenting decisions. But it's just not a great movie. Like, I don't know. For me, it was not one of the best movies I saw this year. But I am like happy it's out there. I'm happy they're doing stuff, and like I would recommend it to like a certain person who is into horror. They probably already listen to the Zombie Girl, so they don't need to hear it from me. So
A zombie girl or plug it up type would be a big fan of the old
There you go.
Hellbenders.
yeah. Anyone else? Eric, Casey, Hellbender.
I was a fan of it, even despite the womanly premise of the themes. I connected with it. It was a pretty entertaining movie.
Casey.
No, I'm sorry. Because of
Which one of the face paintings was your favorite, Casey? That's the question.
oh man, I don't know. That's a tough one.
The only one I really remember was the star one. That's
Yeah,
sort of
the
like
kiss
and
one. That's the one that stands out for me too.
I'm going to be diplomatic and not say anything, John.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
That's me being the bigger man.
No, I get it. All right, let's move. We'll go to number 9. Number 9, a movie Caitlin just mentioned. It's Bones and All.
Mm.
It was on 5 lists. Eric, you had it at number 4, and I'm going to ask you to kick us off.
Nice. Did anybody have it higher than that in general?
No, you had it the highest of all voters.
Interesting. Man, I feel like there were years this could have been a 1 for me. The top 5 was real stacked this year. It's just a beautiful movie, like on kind of every level. Like I think I was saying last week during the show, what was so kind of outstanding about it to me is that it's not just about being dark and depressing, and like even though it is examining some like pretty heavy stuff, like it's kind of neat the way it shows you like the whole spectrum of human emotion through these two people that are getting to know each other and going through life. And like it even, despite like how it ends, it even manages to kind of end on a sort of hopeful tone with the imagery that it calls back to in the end. Like I think I've been thinking more about that very last shot and how like I think it's sort of telling you like whatever happened is okay because this did happen. Like this was real and a moment and like it was fleeting, but that doesn't make it, just because of where we ended up doesn't mean it wasn't worth being there. You know what I mean?
Those eating noises though.
And it's interesting, you know, because halfway through that movie, and I've seen a little bit of discourse on like, is this a genre movie? Because we've been kind of having the same argument over the last couple weeks. And halfway through the movie, I was like, is this a horror movie? And then by the end of it, I was like, oh, that's a fucking horror movie. Like, I'm sorry, but yeah, it is by the time you go there. Also, John, honorable mention to my favorite joke of the year from me, which is when I said that Timothy Chalamet is all bones. I've also been thinking about that because it was pretty good.
So, Eric, I have not seen this yet, but I do know that it's quite long.
It earns every minute of it.
He actually said that on the air.
Okay.
Show, yeah.
I haven't listened yet because I haven't watched it. So.
Yeah.
It's a great movie, and honestly, there was nothing else like it out there this year, so it's pretty unique.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a good year for cannibalism movies. So.
It's true. It's a lot of people just eating people.
That's the season, right?
Casey, you had this at number 5. I had this at number 6.
Yeah,
So-
I like this a lot, and it almost creeped up higher on the list for me, but there was a couple other things that I kept up there that I really did enjoy. I wanted to keep them where they're at, but this one came in late. I didn't know anything about it, and I was pretty swept up in it after we finally sat down to watch it. So
Yeah, that top 5 for me was pretty unassailable up until then.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I was surprised. You really, you had this in there.
I have emotions, John.
sometimes I get nervous. The next one, The Menu. And here we're basically moving in. The rest of these movies all had at least half of the voters had them on their list. So this was on 7 lists. Our own Whitney had it at number 1.
Number 1?
Number 1.
Wow.
Whitney.
nice.
among this group, I was surprised. I had it the highest at number 9.
I think to say the menu is better than Bones and All is demonstrably batty, is what I think.
I mean, whew.
Yeah.
Throwing down.
Not pulling punches, I guess. Yeah, everyone's welcome to their opinion, unless
That's not how we do this, John.
I thought this movie was a lot of fun. I thought it
really was
very. It's smart, right? Like it's a smart sort of satirical thing that they're doing, and it's just goofy, and it's definitely the type of movie that if you think about it real hard, it does not 100% stand up, but that's okay. Like that's fine, because when you announce early and often, as they do, that this is satire or that they're doing the type of movie that they're doing, this kind of black comedy, you just kind of go along for the ride. We talked about it on the show. There's almost too many characters. Like they try to really give every one of the characters their due. But
did you see the story that John Leguizamo based his character on Steven Seagal?
Yeah. You did text us that. Yeah,
Makes
love
a lot
it.
of sense.
Pretty funny.
It
Makes sense.
totally tracks.
It was a good one. I saw it in theaters. Brought my mom, Evie. We had a great time.
That was
Nice.
when the lights came up on my theater. There was like 4 other people together. They were like an older family together, and the matriarch went, "Well, there's an hour and a half I'll never get back."
Jeez.
I'm always just like, why do you go to movies? Like, why do people just, are they just bored and they'll just go to anything? They don't like, I don't know. It's wild.
Yeah.
But also, like, if you're bored, like, there was a lot of shit happening in that movie. It's
Yeah.
not
And the tension was consistent throughout, I mean, that's a them problem.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this one didn't
Oh,
quite make my top
yes.
10, but I did enjoy it a lot. It's still a great movie. It's just there's a lot of stuff that stuck with me this year, so that one didn't quite eke it.
I think
in
this
there.
was probably like the record for like the shortest time I think it was 1 week in my top 10 this year.
It ended up at number 10 for me. And I don't know, it is very much a horror movie. I was trying to play the more of a thriller, but it's horrific in the best ways.
Yeah, it's a black comedy. It's like a black comedy horror movie. I mean, it's not a stalker slasher thing.
No,
or,
it's not a haunted house, but it is horrific what happens, and it's also very funny. So
I don't know that there were any picture frames that fell over on their own. So, I mean, Eric might not judge it as a horror movie, but
the James Wan body slam ghost action.
There's none of that either. All right, let's move to number 7. I'm just gonna say it. The movie's Watcher.
Oh.
It's only on 6 lists, so I jumped the gun a little bit. This was on just under half the list. It was 2 folks' number 1 film, Rachel and Ariel. So we could. This is like the second place Zombie Girls flex here. But Caitlin, you had it the highest of this group at number 5. Tell us about Watcher.
Yeah, Watcher. Well, so I was supposed to be on this BGH episode and then had a little partner emergency. And, when we were getting ready to cover it, as much as I liked It Follows, I did not like Micah Monroe's character from that. And I was like, oh, God, I don't want to see her in another movie. And I was like hemming and hawing about watching it. And then when I was watching it, I was glued. I thought it was really effective, really scary. I think this is one of the movies, when I think about being scared, I think this was one of the, it's not particularly new or sort of, overly developed, but it's just plain scary. And I was really scared at certain points in this movie, especially that subway scene.
That dude's just weird looking, right? I mean, can we just say it?
Yeah, he was on Game of Thrones.
He's an excellent actor because he looks creepy.
Wasn't he the dude who was on he was like a bit character, like he was the guy who kills the Night's Watch king.
He's in the new Godzilla movies too.
Yeah,
he's like bootleg. He's like bootleg Defoe.
Yeah, he is.
Yes,
he's got Defoe vibes. He was great. Micah Monroe was great, which I'm eating crow in that regard. But
John, I've never said anything that delighted you as much as that. That was wonderful.
I feel bad for calling him creepy looking. He's just
creepy
distinctive looking. He's actually like a handsome
He's a good
actor.
Actor.
Yeah, he's a good actor for sure.
Yeah.
Caitlin, I felt similar to you. Not, I should take that back. I didn't have an opinion about Michael Monroe. Like, she had done It Follows. It was sort of an iconic role / like film, but you don't come away from that movie being like, whoa, about her necessarily.
Yeah.
This was a movie where I watched it and I was like, she should be working more. Like, why is she not getting more / different roles? She is working. Like, it's not like she's actually, she does a lot.
Sci-fi horror come out this year too.
Yeah, she does some other stuff, but I don't know. I thought she's great. I thought she was really good in this. It's a this is sort of like an old school like thriller, straight up, right? Like there's not.
It's a good stalker movie. It's also really efficient. Like the script is tight. There's not a lot of any scene that's like sort of doing an expository like I don't know, grounding shot. Like all of it makes sense. None of it's wasted. It's really tight.
There's been a lot of the is it in her head or is something actually nasty happening? I mean, that's sort of like been a theme in modern horror, last couple of years, and even with some other films on the list that we'll talk about. This one did it great, and I would say if anything, its biggest downfall is like it makes the husband too much of a dick. Like he's just too objectively a douche in this movie, whereas like in other movies, it's played a little closer to.
But the thing is, since we did have so much ambiguity, like, is it in her head? I like that at no point in this movie did I not believe her. And that's kind of refreshing. He doesn't, so that we can sort of call into question her reliability as a narrator, but I like that we experience it with her, so that's what makes it so creepy.
Yeah. Fair.
And at this point in the year, we could say that her husband / boyfriend isn't quite as much of a douche as the husband / boyfriend in Smile.
It does give us that sweet moment where she reveals that she learned the language because she hears the husband talking shit about her to the boss at the dinner.
Yeah,
flips the tray over.
Yeah.
And I would say it's like it didn't make my list, but it is pretty enjoyable. It's got one of the better endings of the year. It's got a pretty sweet ending.
Yeah.
Very cool.
I actually would have said, it was very mediocre for me, middle of the road for me until that.
I think the ending made it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's a good one.
All right. One more here before we get into the big top 5. This next one, I realized, and Caitlin, you made me think of this earlier. Number 6 on the list, Mad God.
Yeah.
It was actually an honorable mention last year because there were 3 people who put it on their list last year because it had kind of made the festival rounds. And I don't know, whatever. I was just like letting people do whatever the hell they wanted.
Here's my beef. I like to explain this every year though. Like there's a specific reason why we do this, which is that, and I'm not saying I'm not saying anybody that writes for us does this, but like people who cover the people who cover the horror genre like to get real fart smelly about like I saw this at a festival. It's like great, that doesn't mean fucking anything to someone who lives in the real world. So like I feel like we're trying to replicate as closely as we can the experience that you would just have as a horror fan on the internet. So like I don't need to make myself feel cool by telling you my favorite horror movie of the year, something you can't see for like another year.
Well, we had 3 voters last year who wanted to let everyone know how
cool
their
they are.
farts smelled.
So we just made the decision, like, was it widely available that year? Did it go streaming? Was it in a theater? Then yes, you can put it on your list.
Was one of them Joe?
The problem is John's
it was. I remember it was. Yeah.
Really? The problem is Schnars is
Joe, I love you.
Schnars is a softie, so when people violate the rules, he just lets it go. It's just chaos.
No, well, it's honestly, Eric.
Dad, stop fighting.
It got harder over the pandemic because release windows got all jacked up.
Well, it got
was like trying to
squishier.
Yeah, I was trying to track down like who was able to see what when and whatever. It's on the list this year because it had its official Shudder release. Mad God. This is
John,
Phil Tippett.
Please call it by its proper name. Phil Tippett's Mad God.
Phil Tippett's Mad God. Excuse me. You're right. This was on 7 lists. Our own Adam had it at number 1.
Ooh, Adam. Love Adam.
Yeah.
That's a good pick. It's a good number 1 pick.
Eric, you had this the highest of this group at number 5.
Nice. It was at 4 until bones and all.
Bones and all, just
That
right over the top rope.
Timothy Chalamet, that handsome motherfucker, booted Mad God down one spot. Is he handsome? I don't really know. Caitlin, is he handsome? I can't really tell. He's so like boyish.
He's not my type, but I understand like conventionally he is good looking, but he's not my personal type.
Yeah, I just don't know. Anyway, Mad God is real cool. It is. I have a terrible memory, and it's getting worse as I get older. So at the end of the year, when I'm making lists, like I am skewing, and I've done this for years. It's going more in that direction. Like I skew towards the most memorable things. And Mad God was absolutely one of the most memorable things I saw this year, if not the most. It is really and I think I use this word at the time, it's like a staggering creative work. Like when you think about the amount of time and vision it took to make that, as weird and disgusting and gross as it is, like it's not. That's the part that really fascinates me about it, because even though I could never imagine like the amount of like time and effort, and how do I explain this? Like he spent so many years living in that world in his head in order to like express that way. And that's wild to me because it is like a just objectively off-putting, disgusting world. But like that's in his head all the time. And
10
like,
years, right?
yeah, or something. Maybe longer. I think it was like
longer,
20
way
or
longer
something.
than that,
Yeah,
yeah.
like he's
Oh,
working on
God.
forever. And it's just unforgettable. Like you don't know what the hell's going on, but we had a pretty good discussion about it, and you can like definitely you can put meaning to it in a really interesting way. It's just a visually stunning movie, and also like one of the most disgusting things I've ever seen. I will never forget that movie. Long after I forget like people's names and birthdays, I'll be like, man, remember when those things were like shitting in that other thing's mouth and like down the tube, or the monster with like boob balls? Like, what the hell was that?
Yeah. No. So look, you just made the strongest case for this movie being in the top 10. It was not in my top 10. I appreciate it. I am happy that it exists, but I didn't necessarily like come away being like, that knocked me over. It's fucking wild.
Yeah.
It's so
I almost was like, ooh, I saw a tweet right after I saw it that they were selling the soundtrack on vinyl. But then I was like, what even was the soundtrack? So I went on Spotify and started listening to it. It's just like dirge noises. It's like it's like music to like have diarrhea to. Like I don't know what else you.
God, I wish you had bought the vinyl and then listened.
What a Christmas gift idea,
I know.
though.
Yeah.
It's like the most off-putting music ever. It's so funny.
Yeah.
I'm kind of with Schnars on that one on Mad God. I thought it was impressive as hell what they did, and I was really kind of swept up in the atmosphere of it. But at the end, I didn't really come away necessarily blown away. That's the only reason it's not up there.
For me, it's like I watched a 2-hour movie with zero dialogue, and was not only did I watch it in one sitting, I was like riveted. Like I could not look away from which is a really wild thing considering the other movies that make me tune out.
If you watch this movie on the wrong kind of drugs, you might never come back.
It's gonna go bad.
You're done.
You will think you're in hell if you watch this on like mushrooms or something.
That's either like the greatest testament this movie's ever gonna receive, or the worst. Mad God. It's number 6. Anything else, Caitlin? Any thoughts? Mad God. Did you see Mad God?
So like my Mad God is to Eric as Hatching is to me, and then vice versa.
And vice versa.
If that makes sense.
You know what they
It's
should
just
do?
not my thing. It's not my thing. I think it's very impressive, but it's also just not my thing.
Like, you know how they say like the army.
Which animal shitting in the other animal's mouth did you like turn it off on?
You know how they say the army will use like metal, like heavy metal, to torture like terrorists, or they'll just like blast it in their cell. They should blast this movie. Like, imagine having to be forced to watch this movie in a loop for like a week on end.
Create a super soldier.
I'll mess you up.
Chaos.
Something. Oh boy. All right. Guys, we're really into it now. This is where it's going to get real, because number 4 and 5, 2 films directed by the same gentleman. I put it this way, I was a little surprised how the vote turned out. And I believe when the votes were being tallied earlier in the week or so, it was the inverse, and where we landed is again just different than I expected. So we'll start with number 5. The movie is X. Is on only not necessarily fair, but it's on 8 lists. The highest position for any of the lists was Eric, Elizabeth, and Adam all had it at number 2. So it was not number 1 on anything. The thing to me that was really interesting about X, and obviously number 4 was Pearl. Pearl was on almost every list. The difference was that X was very high for the people who had it on their list, and then it was just not on a lot of lists. Versus Pearl was on almost all the lists, and it was high on some of them, but just not quite as high. Casey, I'm going to ask you to start with X. You had it at number 3.
Yes, I did. X took me by surprise. I got to see that when I was out in Colorado, and it was like the first time out in the theater after pandemic and stuff, so it was kind of an event for me, but I was pretty swept up into it. It has a really great classic slasher feel to it, and the story that they're building out around this I just thought was fun, and I got swept up on it, and I didn't expect some of the tricks that were going on here. I mean, it's not, we can say it's a trick, but I mean, at this point we know that Mia Goth was playing 2 characters in that movie, and I was really impressed with that by the time we saw it unfold at the end. And it was one of those things where you haven't seen a slasher based around senior citizens before. And I kind of appreciated that. It was something new, and it was a different take.
Did it make you feel seen, Casey?
A little bit.
Wow.
A little
He
bit.
said it.
For
But,
me, sorry, Casey.
I was going to go in to say I also had Pearl on the list just underneath X for me. And Pearl, I just loved. It ranked up there with me because they're expanding on that world, and I really like seeing the evolution of Pearl and getting to know more about her, and I can't wait to see what happens when Maxine comes out.
I'm very excited about Maxine.
Yeah, me too.
You know what's funny? I did an all call for Plug It Up guest too, and Pearl and X were 4 and 5 on the Plug It Up rankings too. So I
was very interested in the fact that it was like where they were on, like, and they were very close. Higher. They were very close on people's lists. No, well, really, what it came down to, I mean, so Caitlin, you did not rank X at all.
I didn't,
and you did rank Pearl, and that was true for a lot of folks.
Well, and I will say, the list that I got, it was like X showed up in the best of and worst of very frequently for people. So I feel like I don't know. For me, X was good, not great.
Worst. I need names.
Yeah.
Worst.
I'll give you their Instagram handles. We'll do some fighting. I liked X. It didn't make it for me. We'll talk more about Pearl because I like that a little bit better. But I mean, Ty West did a ton this year. Mia Goth did a ton this year, and what they were able to accomplish in terms of establishing time, like they captured the 70s so well. It was really cool.
What just a fascinating career trajectory for West. Like, given what he's output, and he's had some movies that people love. He's had some like stinkers. He's seemingly gone back and forth. He's not the guy I would have guessed would come out with 2 just like bangers in the same year that caught so much attention. That went theatrical, no less. Like, this was definitely the year like that I am like 100% around on him and pretty excited for like anything he does at this point. X is fascinating because it is so thoroughly modern while also paying homage to retro horror aesthetics, and it's doing all of it so well. Like, it's one of the best slashers we've had in years. It is somehow set in this like kind of in an era of retrograde sexual politics, like, although a time of like sexual revolution, right? But it is somehow like finding ways to comment on like modern sexuality through that, and it is a very horny movie that doesn't. It's kind of equal opportunity. It doesn't necessarily feel exploitative. It's just it's like threading this fascinating needle and doing so many things. And on top of it, it's just really a thrill ride. Like it's very, especially the first time you watch it when you don't really know what the deal is. Like the whole time they're on that property, you're just like, this shit's going to go real sideways, real bad. And you don't know what's going to happen. You know, like it's the lead up to that. And then all the chaos and carnage. It's just so good.
Well, it's Casey mentioned the senior citizen slashers. It's also senior citizen sex scene, like which
with
obviously,
the asterisk. I mean,
yeah.
like,
All right,
you know.
all right, Caitlin.
Hey,
Excuse me,
go
I'm
back
sorry.
and listen to the episode for my
We
whole
remember.
deal.
Fair enough.
You invited me
But,
on this year.
So X wasn't our first Jenna Ortega sighting this year, was it? That was Scream, wasn't
yeah, Scream. She
Five
was in-
cream.
it?
Scree 5 them.
All right, well, let's just talk about Pearl. Pearl was on every single list except Eric's.
Yeah, it got bumped in the last couple weeks. Yeah.
The highest person, I should say only, the highest list that it was on, it was number 2 on Jason's list. And then I had it number 5. I actually had X above Pearl. It's a great movie. I mean, like, in some ways, I would say Pearl is probably a better movie. Like, I think it's more interesting cinematically, but I think X is a better horror movie.
What
That's
about, though,
sort of
John, and
where I
you
land
brought
on
this
it.
up, and I'm not saying this invalidates the movie at all, but, like, what does Pearl mean without X? No,
I
the two are tied.
I think it's
so you
still.
can't
I think
undo
it's
that,
still
but-
an interesting.
It's an interesting character study, right?
Yeah, exactly. But you're right that coming into it through the context of Mia Goth having played the role,
And I
played in
liked
X,
Pearl. I think it's decent. I think like having seen X, like it's a lot more emotionally devastating watching Pearl. Like
yeah,
specifically when you see the reality of what her like dance career was, like the way that she sort of it's talked about in X, then you're like, oh, this like wasn't a thing. This was like just in her head. Like it's like you wouldn't necessarily get that without having that context from X, which is just an interesting, I don't know, layer of it.
For me, see, I don't know if I agree. I feel I liked Pearl a lot better than X, and I think Mia Goth was just outstanding in it. I feel like I would have been okay and gotten the same sort of emotional resonance from Pearl without having seen X. I don't know. For me, I think it can stand on its own.
There's definitely I don't know. I've only seen them each once, so you know some of this is playing back the tape, but I feel like they get away with a bit character-wise in Pearl because of what you're coming in with from X. I mean, it's again, I think it still stands on its own.
For me, like the only tie is that like she ended up, you know, there's that line in X like, oh, she hates blondes, and it's like, oh, well, we know where that comes from because of Pearl. But like for me, they didn't tie together, but so much.
You don't know really how crazy she is. Like there is a dramatic tension where we know that she's fucking crazy. And that hasn't been fully revealed in Pearl. And so there's the scene where she kills it's a goose, I think, right? The animal that she kills right in the beginning.
Right at the beginning, yeah.
Yeah, and that's a little like, But if you haven't seen, like having seen X, you know that she's totally off the reservation. And so then it becomes this question of what is that progression going to look like? I mean, I guess it's still. I wonder what the tension would be like in the film without that knowledge, because otherwise you're
from
just
her
sort of
mom
like,
we get
she's
plenty of
going
it.
crazy.
Well, even the mom says, you know, like there's something wrong with you. I know I'm your mom, and like I don't know. I feel like we see so much sort of behind her eyes when she's bathing in front of her father, and it's just like all the stuff she does is fucking unhinged. And I feel like I get enough of that in Pearl that and again, I like X. I'm not saying like we shouldn't have had it, but I don't think I would have needed it specifically in this order.
Yeah.
I think they're great compliments to each other. I really, really liked Pearl.
I agree with that. I think I could have gotten a lot of the fact that Pearl is bug shit insane from just what happens in Pearl without any lead in. It's because like Caitlin's saying, some of those scenes when she was like the look in her eyes and stuff is really what made that movie. When those scenes when she was bathed in front of her dad and some of the other stuff, it's just like she went to a different place and it was terrifying. And I think that could stand on its own.
I mean, it can. I guess we, unless you go back and watch Pearl without the context of X, it's like you are bringing all of that to
Yeah,
it.
I know. You can't really separate
And so,
it.
no, the thing, like, I had more than one person email me to be like, hey, can we just count X and Pearl as one movie? I'm not, I agree. You have to like sort of separate them.
They're
and
not.
I mean, we
But
did.
they're not even remotely similar. It's not like you could say it's like, oh, they're two sequels that are like the same story. Like they're so
Sure.
different.
The
Yeah.
tone is totally different,
Yeah.
and that's good. I like that we have two different tones.
For me, they were number 4 and 5. You almost can't appreciate them without each other. I think they're
Yeah.
too much in conversation with each other.
I think
for it
if you
to-
don't listen, it's not bad. I think it's decent. I just think if you don't know that she turns into a murderer, what's even going through your head in the first 3/4 of Pearl? Like, what the fuck do you even think that movie's
I'm
about?
like, okay, she humps a scarecrow.
Right.
She's like totally delusional.
No, like shit
She's-
happens, but it's just like, what is happening?
I'm thinking that girl's just not right.
And she's not.
She's not. Yeah. No, I mean, in some ways, so those were the last films on the list that were not number 1 on anyone's list.
Mhm.
And it was interesting to me. They were also the highest films that didn't get to number 1 on any list because we had a bunch of other
I
films
had
get
X
to
as number
one.
1 for a while until my number 1 came out, and then it was nothing after that.
Yeah. So let's go. We're down to the final 3 here. Number 3. The movie is on 12 lists. Caitlin's number 1 film. She's going to be talking about it. The movie is Fresh.
Oh, I really loved Fresh. This got on my list early in the year. I don't remember when it came out, like March, February. It was early.
I think it was like January. I think
It
this
was early.
Really? Oh shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, it had been on my list, and I kind of was expecting it to get bumped, not because I thought that necessarily better things would come out, but it was so early in the year, I thought it might get bumped down a few. But I don't know. When I think back on the year in horror, I had so much fun with that. It surprised me in a lot of ways, and I think we talked about this on the show, but I feel like Sebastian Stan has been waiting for a role like this. He's one of those guys that's like cursed with like handsome good looks, so they cast him as Bucky in the Marvel movies, but he's like, can I just be
good looks.
can I be a cannibal though? And this was his time to shine and be a total weirdo, and I feel like he had a great time with it. There were some reveals there. If someone hasn't seen it yet, I don't want to say what they are, but there are some reveals there that really surprised me. I liked the sort of false lead-in. I was just really impressed with this, and I've watched it a couple times. It was one of my favorite episodes that we recorded. I just really enjoyed it, and I really like talking about it too. And I think that is maybe what bolsters it just a little bit higher for me, is that it was great to watch and it's great to keep talking about.
Yeah, I mentioned at the top of the show there was one movie that sat on my number 1 for like up until a couple months ago, and that was Fresh. I put that at number 1 when I first watched it for the same reasons Caitlin did. It was just, I got sucked into that one, and it was a lot of fun. It was something unexpected, and I thought Sebastian Stan was fantastic in it. I was really kind of sucked into his character and everything too. I mean, I probably would have gone off for a weird dinner with him too and gotten eaten. And let's face it, I'm going to make a good meal.
That's the one thing that didn't make sense. I was like, why are there no bigger people? Like, this girl's like a Lunchable, but Casey and I could like be a main course.
We're like a ribeye, a
I
marble.
know.
I mean, he was eating them, but he was also, it was like,
It was
Yeah.
a sex,
What do other
it
people
was a
want?
whole weird thing.
To me, this was high on my list as well. And I love this. This movie, the menu, like there's like a Watcher. There's a couple of movies. They all seem to somewhat be in dialogue with each other, almost to a certain extent. I think they owe something to a certain. I mean, it's hard to say, but like there's a line to Promising Young Woman in a lot of them, in sort of the tone.
Yeah. Especially Fresh.
I'll tell you my one beef with Fresh. It made me
Get in there.
It
Get
made
in there.
me viscerally disgusted, like in a way that where I actually hurt my enjoyment of the movie. It was so disgusting. Like, and that, listen, some people can just tolerate that, but like, I also felt
bones and all. You were just like, give me
it
some
is
more of that
no,
sloppy.
no, no,
Give me
no,
that
no, no, no,
finger
no, no,
crunch, baby.
no. It is so different. Fresh's like visceral depiction of like human cuts of meat and like eating the meat and prepare like, like it's making me sick just thinking about it.
Fun and
I also, John,
There's
I'll
a
be honest.
culinary quality to
I'll
the
be honest with you, John.
consumption.
Was it on my list?
It might not have
think it
been.
was.
No, I'm pretty sure. Well,
So yeah, I thought it was really good. I also
by.
had this feeling. I was
Yeah.
getting this feeling as the year went on that I might get bullied if I didn't have it on my list. So I feel like that's
you
partially
did
was
have
your
it
why
on
number
your
it's
list,
on
nine.
there.
Eric. Yeah, you did have it.
Yeah. If I was prepared for the backlash, I might have booted it this year. But it's good.
Eric, come on. Would we ever bully you?
I'm being bullied right now.
Ah, please.
By who?
Stop. Yeah.
Just kidding.
You're falling asleep
Bullied
right
in
now.
your own mind. Bullied in your own mind. No, Fresh, really good. I mean, so really the top 4 films were on 12 of 13 lists. That's pretty unusual. That's to have
Consensus.
that much consistency and agreement. Let's go to number 2. Number 2 was on 12 lists. My number 1 film, Shelton's number 1 film, Matilda's number 1 film, Eric's number 1 film. That is Nope. Eric, I cede the floor to you.
I'm mostly now trying to figure out, like what number 1 is. Now I think I know.
Yeah.
I think that Jordan Peele is an amazing filmmaker. And I think that what's so great about his movies is he keeps taking bigger and weirder swings. And like, they're just fascinating movies. Like nobody is making movies like this. Like, and the cool thing about Nope is like, it's almost kind of like ambitiously throwback in a way. Like, because of the like, I know you guys kept calling it Jaws. It definitely is like Jaws in the desert. For me, it was Tremors. As much as Tremors is basically Jaws.
Tremors is Jaws.
I understand.
There's a line.
But like,
There's a line.
it's just an unforgettable movie. It's so much fun. It's visually stunning. Like the last like third of that film, at the end when the thing starts like going into its different stages of like metamorphosis, it's just like visually insane. It's just like some of the coolest shit I think I saw all year. He's a 0 for 3 or 3 and 0. Just knocking him out of the park. 0 for 3.
He's over there or thereabouts.
And in fact, like he is so kind of brave in the way he makes movies. It's almost he's won a lot of goodwill for me in the sense of like if he does take really big swings and it doesn't all land, like I'm willing to give him like I almost look back on Us, a movie that's so weird it's a little like too out there, and I think more favorably on Us now, even after seeing Nope, because I'm like, you know what, this shit is just no one's making stuff like this.
Yeah, I mean, this was my number 1 movie. For me, when I had to sit back and be like, okay, and again, we hit on these 4 films. I feel like there's a lot of consistency around. They were some of the best horror movies we saw. This is probably the one I would watch again, and I plan to watch again the soonest. So that's kind of what it comes down to. Like I want to go watch. Like I feel drawn to it in a way that I was not drawn to the other movies. I had more fun maybe than I had at some of the other movies, even though I fully agree or understand they were, great movies. So, yeah, I loved it.
Nope
John,
was
you
up.
said-
Go ahead, Caitlin.
I was gonna say, John, you said that 12 out of 13 people had this on their list.
Yeah. I wasn't gonna put you on the spot like I would do to Eric, but I'll do
Hey,
it if
please.
you want to volunteer.
Yeah, I didn't have this one on my list. I think it's a good movie, but it didn't make my top 10. I will say, in terms of one thing I thought about when making my list is how scared I was. And I will say that Gordy scene was very, very, very scary to me.
I saw a really cool behind the scenes thing about how they did that. They built this like conveyor belt thing that was just on Twitter like the other day.
I mean, and a lot of it was based on things that have happened to, people interacting with animal actors in the past. Like that was incredibly scary. The raining viscera inside of Jean Jacket, very scary. And I appreciate that it's scary. It's just in Jordan Peele's filmography, it's number 3 out of the three that he's done for me. But I think it's really good. It just didn't make my top 10.
Yeah. It was number 6 on my list, so it was a little lower. And the main reason is I enjoyed this movie a lot, and I still love anything Jordan Peele puts out. I think this was probably the least tightest script that he had of his 3 movies. I think there was a couple little holes there, and it just wasn't quite as well written as the previous 2. And that's my only real beef.
Hard disagree.
This is okay. Casey, I feel you,
mean,
buddy.
I mean, we've been doing this for 15 years. I'm
But
used
like
to
the third best Jordan Peele movie is still the best movie of the year. Like that's like I don't even think
See, and
we're saying
I would
anything
argue
different.
that each of them has been better than the last. Like certainly more. He's taken bigger swings for sure, and like
Oh yeah.
And also, like, the scope of what he was doing here was so much bigger. He had a bigger budget. I mean, there was a really big cast. And, I mean, I don't know. I don't recall what the box office was like. But I think in terms of just everything, it's bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And I think that's something, I don't know, as horror fans, we can probably get behind.
One of my favorite things of the year was discovering, like, the day Twitter discovered that when you look back at the teaser posters for Us, there's one with Steven Yeun's character looking up in the air, and it looks like he has a cowboy hat on.
You said Us, but I assume you mean Nope.
Yeah.
What? Nope. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Like he's looking up in the sky, and it looks like he has a cowboy hat on. But when you really look at it, it's really the Thing, like lining his head. It's pretty
That's
cool.
so cool.
That's pretty cool.
So number one.
Also that jacket he had on, with the
It's
UFO
sick.
embroidered in it. That's pretty sick.
I love it.
No, the number one film on almost every list. Stand by, and I'll look who left it off. Just we can name and shame.
It's called.
But the movie's Barbarian. Barbarian. Number one for Jason, Casey, and Elizabeth. Casey, please kick us off.
Oh, I love this movie. This was the biggest surprise of the year for me, horror-wise. Everybody kept telling us go in blind. There was a lot of hype behind this movie when we went in to watch it, and for me, it actually lived up to the hype, and I went in blind, and I was completely caught off guard by what was going on in this movie as it started to get in. And I think there's a perfect balance of funny mixed in with this movie, with the tension and everything, and they slowly build this tension to where it gets to an holy shit state towards the end of the movie, and it's just kind of like a roller coaster as you're building through there. But there's some genuinely funny moments in this movie too. Justin Long was like the biggest surprise to me when he shows up. I had no idea he was in this movie. We cut to a scene. It's just him cruising down a California highway in a car.
Dude, he's so good.
And you get wrapped up into his character from the beginning, and there's a lot of the comedy comes from that character too as you go through there. But also the Skarsgård that was in the first half of it, and I thought he was surprised me too, and he was good and funny in his own way too. And I think Justin Long in the dungeon with his tape measure measuring the additional floor space of his house was like the top moment of movies this year.
And googling if secret basement rooms count as floor space.
Yeah.
Barbarian was awesome. I think of all the movies I watched this year, it was the most fun I had. I also really enjoyed my theater experience for it, which I think, probably colors my thoughts about it. But it was so much fun to watch, really fun to talk about. The Justin Long of it all. I mean, and I've said it before, but like if you had told me like we're gonna have this date rapist and he's gonna be so funny, I would have been like, fuck off. Like it just, but it's so good. And when I think back to the trailer, like the trailer didn't give this stuff away, but the trailer in itself was still really scary. And I was like, wow, cool, what a good concept for a horror movie. And then we get there, and it's like, oh fuck, like that's just the tip of the iceberg. And it's, I don't know, it was just really,
like,
really
what's
fun.
so brilliant about that character is like the script never asks you to sympathize with him and never asks you to feel bad for him. It actually plays that as like tension of like giving you those moments where you think he might redeem himself and then he just turns out to be a bigger piece of shit, and it's so funny. Like, and so you're just enjoying sitting here hating this person, and then he's also making you laugh, and like that character's not one note. Like there's a lot going on with the
Yeah.
character study of that Justin Long character, and he doesn't even show up until like halfway into the movie. It's just really wild.
And you go back and forth on that character. That's to your point. You go back and forth on him. Sometimes you're sympathetic to him. Sometimes you're like, you're a dick. You need to die.
And for me, like the only reason why I put Nope ahead of it is just given the scope and ambition. Like I that was why I gave it the nod. But like any other year, Barbarian could have been an easy number one for me. It's definitely the best like pure 100% horror film of the year.
I ended up making a pretty late in the game switch. I had Barbarian number one, and I just, I kick back as I do when I'm thinking about lists, and here we are. But yeah, it was, I don't know, that movie gets so crazy. It really, and I don't know, the last act, the last third, when it really just becomes a chase sequence with the monster, so to speak, it's still just so bonkers. And where it goes, I mean, it does. I don't know. Everything you guys said, I agree with. It is funny in a way that I was certainly not expecting.
Also,
great theater watch.
Yeah, the theater watch was so fun, and like I feel like at least the people I were with, we were all like, audibly reacting. And then when the credits cut to "Me, My Little Baby," we were all like, "Oh my god!" Like,
that's right. I forgot about the credit music. That's so good.
Very, very memorable.
Moment of the year is like when we think he's about to do something good, and then he throws her off the tower.
Oh yeah.
Yes. And then gets his skull crushed.
Yeah.
That or actually
crazy.
One of my favorite moments in that movie is when the homeless guy is telling them like, she won't come in here. I've been living here, blah blah. And then she like Kool-Aid Man bursts through the wall and like murders him,
rips his arm off and beats him with it. Yeah, it's fucking crazy.
It just it has everything. What can you say? It's an awesome movie.
So there you are. That's the top 10.
It's quite the list, and there was a lot of stuff that didn't make it. That's good.
Yeah.
No, it was a solid year.
The thing I like to do, I want to close with a couple of quick notes. The thing that was on the most lists but didn't make the top 10 was Men. Men made 5 lists, did not make the top 10.
It was on mine for a bit.
Did not like.
I think it is on my final list. I think
I said that was too fart smelly, right? Wasn't that where I landed on Men?
Probably. That sounds like something you would say.
Up its own butt.
Here's what I want to do. I want to close with, I'm going to give you each the top pick from your personal list that didn't make the top 10, a movie we have not spoken about, and we'll just run it down from there. Caitlin, you had at number 2, and funny enough, your number 2 movie last year also didn't make our list. And so I don't know. This is like a Caitlin thing. This is like your thing. You Won't Be Alone.
Yeah, You Won't Be Alone. Have you guys seen it?
Heck no.
This
is the Rumi. What's her name?
Yeah. Noomi Rapace.
Noomi Rapace
is one of the. So this was a rookie director, and it's a long movie, and the scope. I mean, we're following at least like a 10-15 year period here. Humongous cast, huge undertaking. The main character ends up being played by various actors. I mean, like, I don't know. I feel like if you had told me, like, okay, we're going to have this guy take it on, I'd be like, I don't know. It sounds like a little too ambitious. It sounds a little too crazy. But it's so, so good. It's very, it's really gory. It's got a lot of cool witchcraft in it. It's very folksy. It is a little slower, but I can get behind that. It's got all the themes that make sense to me. And I think it's just really, really impressive. It's also beautiful, like a really good look at the human condition and what it means to grow up, what it means to, I don't know, become self-aware and understand yourself and understand the people around you. It's really, really beautiful. And I don't know, I haven't been able to stop thinking about it. And I've talked to a lot of people about it, and I think people that got into it really, really, really got into it.
You lost me at really long.
I mean, it's long. It's a little slower, and it's not as accessible as a lot of other movies that came out this year. But I mean, it's really impressive.
No, fair enough. No, I saw that we had it on our list, like, to watch, and we just, we didn't get it's. As we've discussed, we're trying to get to as broad a list as we can. Casey, I'm going to go to you next. The highest number, the highest film on your list that we have not talked about is number 8, Orphan First Kill.
Ooh.
Oh yeah, I thought that would do a lot better this year.
I'm really surprised I didn't make it, honestly.
It's so good.
It's
such a good movie.
The three of us. Caitlin, I don't know if you had it on your list. I had it on my list. I'm pretty sure though.
I'm just gonna say,
but I loved it.
For people who didn't see it, like, you're missing out.
Yeah.
And see it before you listen to the next 45 seconds.
Julia Stiles, performance of the year.
And who expects a sequel to a movie from 8-10 years later to be as good as that was?
Yeah.
Especially when you're going back in time before it.
I know.
It's a prequel. Kinda, yeah.
But it's kind of frenetic, and it's like the most closest to like an action-y horror movie we got for this year, and it was just kind of chaos on screen. It was a good time.
It was so ridiculous.
Yeah.
You all had warned me. You were sort of like, we had like a text thread about it. And I was just like, all right, like, yeah, I'm in to have a good time. I might have had a lot of drinks when I sat down to watch it. And, oh boy, it was, yeah, it's good.
Not what
good
you're
stuff.
expecting.
No,
that
it
movie
went to places that I definitely was not expecting,
Yeah.
which is, I was surprised.
That movie fucks.
Yeah.
Straight up.
So good.
It sure does. I will actually, Eric. I'll go last. You can go next, Eric. The number 6 movie on your list was Spine of Night.
Yeah. I'm guessing a lot of people either didn't see it or didn't even necessarily consider it horror. It's much more like dark animated fantasy is probably, I bet, what it's listed on like IMDb as.
It's like a very small.
Again, I had this one sort of paired right next to Mad God all year. Once I saw them, I had them right next to each other all year. I think I might have swapped them at some point. But I just like fell in love with this fantasy world that they presented. Like, it's visually really stunning. It's like this kind of throwback style of animation, but done in this modern way. Yeah.
Yeah, and it looks like a Ralph Bakshi movie.
Right. And like, my favorite thing about it though is the scope of it. Like, it presents this huge fantasy world where we're jumping around from different stories, but the world is so big that the people in the stories don't even necessarily understand the consequences or impact of the part of the story that they're experiencing. And so like there's this whole story, right, about like this group of the knowledge keepers, and then one of them like goes rogue and like becomes evil and raises this army of skeletons. That's a whole story. And then like randomly we had another story, and there's some like villagers, they don't know what the fuck is going on. Suddenly their village gets like overrun by these skeletons and they all get murdered. Like, for some reason I just found it really neat the way that all the stories were interacting with each other, even though people had no idea about the other parts of the story. And then to go beyond that, it becomes this whole thing about like the space-time continuum and memory and history. Like, it goes even farther kind of out there into like that territory.
There's flowers involved.
Yeah. Yep. Trying to keep the flower alive.
Flowers make you like remember time.
I love this
like
fantasy. I love this fantasy trope of like the character who's just, they're the guardian of something, and it's like at some point they don't even know why anymore. It's just like they know it's their job. Super memorable. I loved Patton Oswalt as the like petulant king. So good. Some great voice work.
That's what I remember most about it is Patton Oswalt's performance. He was so good.
Very colorful, beautiful movie with like lots of fun animated violence, which turns out I'm really into.
I think
another LSD-esque. Schnars, you were mentioning earlier.
Yeah, no, totally.
I have a
you referenced this in relation to Mad God. This was on my long list of things I considered for sure. For like, you used the word story as you were describing this several times, because there's a fucking story going on. Like, it's actually
you're saying versus Mad God.
Yeah, well, sorry, the reason I was saying this and Mad God are very related, I believe this was made by effectively like one person or like, a small group over a long period of time. I think this movie
Yeah.
also took several years to make.
I sort of made it my mission this year because I just feel like it's one of those things that looks weird enough when you're just passing by an image or a trailer that I feel like a lot of people maybe skipped it over, but it's really fun.
I mean, look, it's not for everyone.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
I'm in the group of people that
John,
it's for, and it's sweet.
John, I'm not for everyone.
No. Oh boy.
But you're for us.
I'm glad I didn't have to tell you that. So
I'm an acquired taste too, but some people like me.
it's no, this movie's really, really good. I don't know. The Mad God comp is interesting, and to me, if you're only gonna watch one, I would watch Spider-Man. That's
Yeah, for me it was like they're both sort of less traditional means of tell. Like one's animated, they're both animated, right? Just in different ways, both colorful in different ways.
I'll just give you mine really quick. Number 7 on my list was a little movie called Speak No Evil. We just reviewed it not so long ago. Caitlin, did you see Speak No Evil?
I did not get around to that one.
Hoo boy.
You okay, John?
So we've hit on it a couple times. Like, I will remember this movie more than almost anything we watched this year. I mean, like it is dark as fuck. It is very, very, very
Say
dark.
less, I'm in.
No, Caitlin, like you should watch it. I mean, you're not gonna feel good after you're done watching it. You're definitely not gonna. It's not like a knee slapping good time, but
I love a knee slapping good time.
That was it for me. That made my list. Do we want to? Well, I should say the movie. Just honorable mention because I'm here and I get to make the honorable mentions. Crimes of the Future. It was on my list for a long time, guys. It made it pretty long. I almost just was like, fuck it, it's number 10, and I'm just going to get rid of whatever number 10 is.
I respect that because that's a real Eric thing to just leave something on your list out of spite like that.
Yeah. But
He's a Cronenberg boy.
It's my dude. It's my dude. And like, I'm so happy it's out there. I'm so happy that he made it. And like, it's just, it's fucking craziness. So...
Along the same lines, you guys would all be surprised to know that Studio 666, the Foo Fighters horror movie, has not been on my list for at least 6 months.
Casey, I literally forgot it existed until you just said that.
Yeah. I will say Joe Ferry at number 1 on his list had the movie Saloon, which we talked about a couple times. I started it and just have not had a chance to finish it because it's been a fucked up month. I'm going to be really upset. I'm going to come back. I'm going to report back if it ends up, it would have been on my list. I'll feel bad. I won't doctor the list as it exists, but I will be upset. So, do we want to do a worst of?
Yes.
Is there any other movies we didn't
I've got
talk
one.
about?
No,
I would just say Bodies, Bodies, Bodies was one that caused a lot of buzz. That
was fun.
Is that your worst or?
No. It's my number 9 overall, but I do have a worst when we're ready.
I was surprised. Bodies did not resonate.
I think that one was pretty divisive.
I think resonate with me, and you weren't the only person that had it on your list.
Most of us, even the people writing for the site, are pretty old, and I think that the zoomerness of that movie was pretty divisive in general.
Yeah,
I just love a whodunit, And
Same. And Lee Pace, dude, that movie did anything. It was fire up my Lee Pace crush in 2022.
Worst? Anything we need or want to talk about at worst?
Can I guess yours?
Halloween Ends. Sucks.
No.
It was so bad.
It sucks.
Remember, I texted you guys and I was like, I'm desperate to get your takes on Halloween Ends because I was like, I need the Eric take on this.
Is one of the most confounding, god awful things I've ever seen, and like I've been using social media much less lately. It's actually like in the holidays, been creeping back in. I need to get it under control, John. But like once a day, Twitter will surface me some rando being like, people just don't like Halloween Ends because it's different, but it's so good, blah, blah, blah. I can't believe it. And like, I get fucking rage inside. Like, it makes me so angry.
Why do you think I'm not saying anything?
I will say, when I asked people specifically for worst of, when I did my list for Plug It Up, and that one got by far the most votes for worst of 2022.
It's just.
In the same vein as Eric in the Foo Fighters movie, I forgot until last week, and Schnars mentioned it when we were getting ready for the show. I forgot there was a Texas Chainsaw Massacre this year.
That was pretty bad too. That was pretty bad too.
I'd still go to bat for it. I think I mentioned it. Someone asked us. I think The Cellar.
Yeah.
That was real dumb.
Well, the thing
That
with The
was
Cellar
stinker.
is like The Cellar is like, why does this exist?
Yeah.
Like, why did you like summon resources and people's time to do this? Whereas like Halloween is just some misguided individuals who thought like took
It's
a swing and like
The Cellar. It could be one of those tax write-off movies.
right.
don't
I
know.
mean, that's what it feels like, 100%.
Yeah.
My
No, go.
my worst one was my best friend's exorcism.
I didn't
That
see
book-
that, but I heard similar.
That book is one of my favorite books, and I feel like, man, I don't know what happened, but Prime really dropped the ball. I don't know if it was budget, but they cut so much. I know you have to when you're doing an adaptation, but that movie was like 80 minutes. They could have added like a little something, and they totally missed like
you can go to 90.
No, solid 90. But like they totally missed the spirit of the whole thing. And they had such rich source material. It's in the 80s. Like there's so much you can do with costume at least to, I don't know, make it feel good. And they really fumbled it. I was so looking forward to it, and they disappointed me.
I didn't watch it, but I feel like the actresses they had talent. Like it wasn't complete schlub nobodies doing that.
It was the
movie.
script. It was the actresses were good. They had terrible wigs on though. I was like, why would you do this to them? But real bad. Real bad.
Yeah. Do we want to do most anticipated? Is there anything that anyone is anticipating beyond Megan?
How dare you call out Megan?
Megan is taking up all of my brain space currently.
There's a lot. There's a lot of
next week.
energy around Megan right now.
I mean, do we know anything else coming out? This came up in like social media questions also.
There's a ton of franchise. Like we're getting Evil Dead Rise. We're getting
That one I'm getting excited for.
it looks cool. We're getting another Scream. We're
Is
getting another Insidious.
Evil Dead Rise
Eric.
is like
the
a
Scream in New York, I'm actually pretty excited about. And I fucking hate Scream. I shouldn't say I hate Scream.
But there's
I'm
no
not a
Nap
Scream
Camp.
fan.
Like what are we doing? But we're getting that. We're getting David Gordon Green's Exorcist, which I'm not excited
No.
about.
oh,
negative
God, no.
excited. Like
Yeah.
wish that we could rewind the clock to when that wasn't a thing that was happening.
Is Evil Dead Rise like a continuation of the remake timeline? Or is
That's
it
where I'm
just
confused.
A standalone?
From what I've read, I think it just happens to take place in the world, in the
Ah.
Evil Dead world.
I don't know what that means. So it's just
Who
kind of a
is
Well,
it?
it's
standalone.
made
basic-
by the creative
So it's
team
kind of a
behind
standalone
the one that made the remake.
story.
Yeah, I think so. Well, I think Sam may be involved with it too.
Well, he's always gonna get.
I mean,
his
he's
check.
definitely an EP, I'm sure.
Yeah.
We're getting
Should
Saw
we?
10.
Should we? Oh boy.
Oh,
Hey.
are they finally bringing him back as a zombie? Something's going on, right? There was some deal they're talking about.
Well, spoiler if you don't want to skip the next 5 seconds. Apparently Amanda's back. I don't know how that's happening, but that's what I've heard.
Is she Saw? Is Amanda Saw now?
I hope so. I don't know. I'm excited. I know. Was it Rachel? Rachel's the one that has like all the Saw
It would be
knowledge.
nice to just get those movies so that the Saw. Okay, I know it's Jigsaw. I'm just saying Saw because I'm an idiot. It would be nice for Saw to just be a person that's alive and not have to retcon everything. It would so
We'll
simplify.
see where they take it.
It would so
don't
simplify
know.
those movies.
Should be good. Or bad. I don't know.
The guy who's doing the Evil Dead Rise movie, he did that movie, The Hole in the Ground, which we watched. I
Oh,
am
we
like
sure did.
95% sure.
Sounds like
Yeah.
And it was not good. It
Mhm.
wasn't a movie that I remember watching. Let's put it that way, even though I'm 95% sure I saw it.
Yeah, to my earlier comment, Eric, I think it just happens to be Deadites invading a high-rise tower, like it takes
Yeah,
place in the world of Evil Dead.
I didn't know if there's any connection.
Not that I've seen.
People love that Evil Dead
Um,
remake.
We're getting that Winnie the Pooh movie. We're getting the new Insidious. We're getting Renfield, the Nick Cage in the Dracula universe movie. If you've seen this, have you seen the leaked stills?
No, but
Yeah.
oh yes, I did. Yeah.
In the like
I haven't.
velvet, crushed velvet. I was like, oh
this
my god.
This Winnie the Pooh thing, is that because it's in public domain now?
The,
Yes.
the day it went into public domain, the trailer dropped. Like they were waiting for it.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's
There's a
amazing that-
Grinch, but the same people are doing the Grinch.
It's
too, I
amazing
think,
with
or they
like
did.
it's amazing with like the vice-like grip that corporations have over like like licensing and stuff. Like it's amazing that can still happen. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
It's public
originally,
domain, really.
originally those rights weren't Disney's, so and they probably only have specific rights to it.
Are you guys gonna do Cocaine Bear? Speaking of bears.
Oh yeah,
Is
I'm
that a
excited
horror
for it.
movie?
Yeah.
Looks like a comedy.
very
isn't
into
it?
that. Do we want to go? Do we have other Twitter /
We have some Twitter and IGs, yeah.
All right, let's do it. We're done. We did the year. Eric. That was the year.
Yay,
That
we
was
did it.
2022.
Yay, we're alive.
Yay.
Good data collected, Schnars.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Happy to be here.
All right, let's take a quick break and do some fan mail.
New Line Cinema sadly mourns the
You know what? Stand by.
Our greatest fears are all around us, hiding in nightmares, shrouded in evil, waiting to be unleashed.
You shine on, boy.
Shine on?
The Bible calls it having vision. I can feel it coming off you like heat.
From Stephen King, the creator of It, The Tommyknockers, and The Stand, comes a completely new vision of terror.
Seize your destiny, Mr. Torrance. Coming, sweetheart.
Are you gonna hurt me, Daddy?
Come down here and take your medicine!
Oh, my God.
You're never taking my son!
This spring, go to hell and pray you get out alive. Rebecca De Mornay, Stephen Weber.
Daddy's mad at Mommy!
Stephen King's The Shining.
Hey, I'm Lisa Zane from Nightmare on Elm Street, and you are listening to Bloody Good Horror.
Send feedback to info@bloodygoodhorror.com or on Twitter using hashtag AskPGH. Join Patreon to get back episodes and much more. Patreon.com/bloodygoodhorror.
You see, John, it's funny because Timothy Chalamet is a skinny gentleman. Do you get it?
With the bones.
I mean,
Yeah.
best joke of the year. Got it in right under the wire, too. Pretty excited for myself. We put this live stream out for everybody this evening. The world did not watch, but that's another story.
Hey, 12. Casey said 12. We're watching live.
There may have been more.
Yeah.
That was the
More
beginning.
to come.
But you can get a live stream every week. And it's not just a live stream. Not everybody knows this, but it archives immediately. So if you, at any point, go back and click, you can and if you decide you want to watch an episode other than listening to it, you can do that. Patreon.com/bloodygoodhorror. You also get the back episodes, access to Slack, where we hang out and talk about stuff. And yeah. It's Patreon, John. It keeps us going.
It's a good time.
Yes, and we greatly appreciate everyone who helps keep us going. So thank you.
Sure do.
Do you have something to say, John? You looked pregnant with thought.
No.
Okay.
I'm ready for
Casey,
the questions.
Nothing
Let's
on
do it.
Twitter, Casey? Is that what you said?
There's 2 tweets on Twitter tonight, but it's stuff we've already
Covered.
discussed pretty heavily tonight. So
Yeah. Instagram, odds on Eric's list getting changed or shuffled before the year ender. Just my last change there was bones and all.
Yeah.
Right up until the last minute.
Mine too.
Here's one that I'm not qualified to answer because I watched like one thing this year that wasn't a movie. What was the best show of the year?
Ooh.
He did not give a genre, so let's say any genre.
Oh.
I'm coming up. I'm gonna say Severance just because I just finished it like the other night and that really blew my gourd. So I'm gonna give that one my vote.
I've heard that's
It's
good.
very good.
Severance
very
is
good.
Adam. What's his
Scott.
name?
Adam
Yeah.
Scott, yeah.
I do like Adam Scott.
Well, but what's his name is the sort of director, producer.
Ben Stiller.
Ben Stiller.
What
yeah.
is Severance on? Is that on some Apple bullshit?
Apple?
Yeah, it's
yeah,
Apple.
Apple.
How do you get
That's
that?
why I
TV
haven't
Plus.
seen it.
Do I have to pay Apple more money for that?
Yes.
If you have an Apple device, I don't know. Like, I guess I paid them for it now. It's
All right. Casey,
don't even know.
let's talk. Casey.
Yeah.
sorry.
We can fix that.
We've been watching in the drama category. I watched season 2 of White Lotus, which I enjoyed a lot. Although, I don't know, White Lotus very interesting. It's I don't know. It's a very interesting show. I enjoy watching it. Have you all seen this show, Girls 5 Eva? Have you guys watched Girls 5
I
I've
Eva?
love
heard
that
of
show.
it.
Suzanne and I have been watching it, and I guess the second season came out this year, and then it got canceled by Peacock/NBC, and now it's getting picked up by Netflix. And
I did not know that.
it is. Season 3 will be on Netflix, and it's delightful. If you like the 30 Rock, Kimmy Schmidt universe, do yourself a favor and go watch Girls 5 Eva. You're gonna really like it.
It's a great cast too. It's Sarah Bareilles, who is a singer.
Yeah.
There's Bijou. Is it Bijou Phillips?
Busy Phillips.
Busy Phillips.
Yeah.
And Paula Patton, who I think is freaking hilarious.
Paul Pell.
Paula Pell. Sorry.
So then Wiki, the woman who plays Wiki, is like one of the original cast members from Hamilton.
Yeah.
And it's like a lot of real solid musical talent.
The final season of Better Call Saul was pretty brilliant. Pretty amazing. And a really incredible.
That was this year.
Really incredible finale of that show. Other than that, I've mostly just been watching Love Is Blind. Love that show. It's amazing.
Is that the like X-rated one on? Is that like the
No.
NC-17 one?
Is there? What is that? That I'm interested
There's
in.
some show someone was mentioning on Netflix. There's like a show that's basically like a reality show, but just with like straight up like people getting it on.
All right.
On Netflix.
No, but
I mean, I like
someone slide in my DMs and let me know what that is because I'm into that.
Oh, man.
I think it was on a pod. Someone was talking about it in any event. Sorry, Caitlin.
I watched American Horror Story like I always do, and this year it was actually pretty good. It was good. I was skeptical of the theme at first, but it ended up being pretty good.
Yeah.
And I watched the old Yellow Jackets. I know that came out late last year, but
I watched that too. It was really good.
Yeah, I did too.
Was that was
fucking dope?
There's a new season.
I
coming.
thought that was this year.
I know.
I thought that was this year
excited.
that came out.
I watched it this year.
It's
Someone
really
I was
good.
corrected several times on Instagram that it came out in 2021, but it felt like this year to me. So.
I think whatever. They're wrong. I'm claiming
Yeah,
it for this.
I enjoyed that a lot, and I did read. I'm excited because Josh Ritter, who is Melanie Linsky's real life husband's going to be in this season, at least for an episode.
She's so cool.
I'll tell you what I did not end up liking, surprisingly, was that new Game of Thrones. I got like 3 episodes in and gave up on it.
What's House of the Dragon? Something like that?
I
did not watch.
I really didn't like the time jumping because it makes it impossible to like get invested in the story. I don't know. It's weird. It's telling it the story just like the books do, but I'm not sure that makes for like a good television series.
You know what's pretty sweet, and I haven't finished it, so this is like I think it's like an 80% recommendation. Andor, love Andor, very good.
I hear it's good.
A lot of fun.
I need to get back more into that one.
Disney Plus. It is in the Star Wars universe, but it's like basically like a sci-fi drama. It is not a Star Wars show. I watched Mandalorian. I did not watch the Boba Fett show. I watched the first episode and was just like, don't need it. And then, but this one's really good. It is like a political drama. There's a whole prison movie sequence going on in about 4 episodes. It's great.
Interesting.
A lot of fun. Good times.
Biggest disappointment of the year, movies.
Horror category?
For me, it was Scream 5. I was bummed by it.
Yeah, that did nothing for me.
I mean,
I gotta say, Don't Worry, Darling. That's, I guess, horror adjacent, but I was so excited for what I thought was gonna be a Black Mirror Stepford Wives, and that movie fucking blew.
I actually really enjoyed that movie. But I saw it after everyone and their fucking mother was telling me it was the worst movie ever. And I saw it and I'm like, yeah, this is like a lot of fun. And then also Harry Styles is fine. He's fine in that movie.
Harry Styles was fine. I think the dialogue was really cringe for me.
I really liked it. I also loved the ending. It's pretty into it.
I hadn't watched that one yet. I got put off by all the real world drama. It just got silly.
This is the perfect time to watch it because you have zero expectations. Yeah. Like,
I'll just say Halloween Ends, even though like my expectations are pretty low. It's still a fucking dumpster fire. So.
2 more questions. One's not really a question.
Love those.
My 3-year-old now pretend screams along with the BGH Freddy bumper. Am I a bad dad? Not for letting him listen to the bumper, but maybe for the rest of the show. There is an age where, like, although I feel like 3 is past that age, where kids are not really paying attention to what's on the TV and they're not really repeating words yet. And I feel like it's like, for me, it's like about 1.5 years where you gotta be like, like, I don't know if I can. That's at the point at which I stop watching cool stuff around my kids.
Yeah.
It's fun to like mouth the words or say the words along with the bumpers.
It is. I still do it. I'm currently setting up like a television downstairs for my kids so that I can start watching cool stuff again, like football and like anything.
That's age appropriate, right? I don't know.
Yeah, but they don't want to see it if there's one TV. They're like, I want to watch this bullshit. I'm like, fine, just watch it. I don't care.
I had the conversation with my wife about, do I need to buy a 3rd Nintendo Switch? Because now I bought one.
You never get to play.
I was playing it for years, and then my son took that one over, and then my daughter now wants to play the 6-year-old wants to play the other one, and so there's just no Switches. Like, I have no Switch. It's like right now what we are doing is my Switch time. They go to bed, I have like 1.5 hours of Switch time, and it's like that's it. So,
we've got 3 of them in our house. It wasn't worth fighting over.
No, that's where I'm getting, Casey. Like and dude, I have a 4-year-old. Like, she's not that far away. She's gonna be like, I need a 4th Switch, and I'm just gonna be like,
a 2
fuck me.
Get a BOGO deal.
Treat yourself to the OLED.
Oh yeah, they're not getting that one.
No, that's what I treated myself to.
Kids can't appreciate an OLED screen. Come on.
No, exactly. That's
all right,
for me.
we had a few more questions, but I'm exhausted, and so we're gonna do one more. And I need your guys' help because I can't answer this. What's the best thing you ate this year?
Oh wow, very menu-esque. Oh man.
I don't know.
I mean, I had that Willet bourbon while we were doing the show. That was
sounds
amazing.
That's fair.
I had some really good plantains. There's a Cuban place near me that just has the best plantains and house-made hot sauce, and I don't know. I can't recreate those, and I can't get them anywhere else. And
I'm sure I talked about it on the show. My mom, for Christmas last year, my grandmother died, and my mom was like, what do you want? I'll get you whatever you want. And I said I wanted a wood pellet grill, which it's not like the most expensive grill. It's not the most, but it's more expensive than
your grandmother dying.
Sorry?
I'm not following the thread of like.
My grandmother died, and my mom was like, what do you want? And I said I wanted a very nice grill. And so I used it to make lots of
I still don't
really good barbecue.
Like,
did you get a green egg?
Yeah. No, it was a Traeger. It's a Traeger grill. But sorry, Eric, my grandmother died.
I understand.
My mom was My mom was flush. My mom was feeling
Okay,
flush.
that was
and so she said, "What do you want?" And I said, "I'll take a nice grill."
That was the A to B.
Mom wasn't feeling Christmas shopping.
That was the A to B to C that I was missing. Thank you.
Every piece
Step 3,
of meat that I've cooked on this grill, when you cook the grill low and slow, you can't go wrong. The meat's always good. So.
Old Sebastian Stan over here cooking up the meats.
Love it.
I had when we were in Niagara Falls, I found a food truck that had these steak sandwiches called a haystack, and it was just like shaved ribeye and cheese, and it was a big hoagie bun with the little potato sticks across the top, and that was pretty magical. Total fat guy food, but it was good.
Sounds great.
Nothing wrong with it.
Yeah, anytime you're just adding potato chips, yeah.
Yeah.
It's good though. All right, that's gonna do it. Putting a bow on 2022. It could probably get worse, so I don't want to say that it can't. So
That was a good year for horror.
I think it was a pretty good year.
No, it was an awesome year for horror. That's about it.
Yeah.
Watch out for that flu. It's no joke.
Yeah, it sucks.
Yeah, I shared a meme on Facebook this week. Said nobody say that 2023 is going to be your year. We're all going to hold steady. We're going to go in quietly and try not to piss anything off.
What are we doing next week? Is it Megan week? No, I think we have 1 week in between. I think Megan's week after that.
We may. I don't know. We have not discussed.
What are we queuing up? Chud 2? Is it finally my time? Bud the Chud?
Have y'all done Sissy?
No.
It's on Shudder. It's good. It made my top 10.
Cannibalistic humor.
I think I had to add it to the core list because of you.
Because of me. It's not cannibals, but I think I don't know. I think I would like it.
Underground Dweller?
It's actually about a bachelorette party, which those are in themselves horrific. So I think you'd have a fun time with it.
I noticed last night it's currently playing on the rotation on Shudder TV. So
Australian. It's fun. Give it a go.
Oof, the Aussies.
How long is it? It sounds long.
It's like it's Eric. It's like if the Stylist met Tucker and Dale versus Evil. It's really fun.
Interesting. I don't know what to make of that combination of movies, but there you go. All right. Caitlin, what's going on in your world there before we sign off here?
Just more Monstrous Feminine over at Plug It Up. It was a good year for women in horror movies. I had a lot of them. So
good year for women directors too.
Yeah, it was. It was good.
How can people find you?
Plug It Up Pod on Instagram and Twitter. And the next week's gonna be 2 episodes to start the new year. Gonna cover both Suspirias.
Ooh, nice.
Ooh.
Love that new Suspiria. So good. We were just talking about it last week.
Yeah. Well, that's the guy from Bones and All, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Luca.
Guadagnino.
Don't let Eric say his last name. Yeah.
Love him.
Exactly.
All right.
Big fan.
That's gonna do it for 2022. Thank you all for taking the ride with us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I appreciate you, and we will see you next year.
See yous.
Bye.
Bye-bye.